I'm a certified professional in enterprise management with Institute of Enterprise Management and Analytics. I'm also an international member of International Association of Contract and Commercial Managers. I also hold a BSc in accounting from the University of Calabar, Cross River State, and I'm currently doing my master's. And you're going to enjoy it. So for those of you who are still thinking about where to do your master's with flexible payment, I just want you to come on board, and then you're going to enjoy what is happening here. Okay. My job today is very simple. I'm just to put you through on how to bid for contract and actually manage contract. So if you're into the oil and gas industry, I think this is a very good one for you to be able to actually handle everything you need about contracts. Okay. I don't know, have you ever done a CV before? If you've done a CV before and you have a job with your CV, I want you to put yes on the question and answer box right now. If you've done a CV before and you've gotten a job with your CV, I want you to just say yes on the question and answer box right now. Are you doing that right now? Okay. Okay. If you have ever gotten a job with your CV, it's the same pattern you will use in getting a job with getting contracts. It's almost the same pattern. First of all, what do you put in your CV? The very first thing is your name. Am I correct? The very first thing is your name. So when you put your name on your CV, when it has to do with corporate environment, what do you do? The name also represents, when it comes to corporate environment, what you actually put is actually your CSC document. You put your CSC2, your CSC7, you put your incorporation to actually fill in all the space. And if you actually ask for if you actually ask for example, something like job experience, the next thing you see on your job is experience, right? Now, under your experience, what do you add? If it's a corporate environment, you're going to put your job history, past job done, to be able to show that, yeah, I'm qualified. Then the next thing you find on your CV is qualification. On qualification, you're going to find out that what you need to add is the regulatory documents. Now, the same thing happens when you are actually down to bid for contracts. It's virtually the same thing. It's only just a little bit of difference that is between, since this is the corporate environment and this other one is actually your personal business. Before we do that, let's do introduction. What is tendering? You might actually ask, what is tendering? Tendering is a main tendering procedure employed by both private sector and the government. The client advertises the tender offer in a local newspaper along with the key information, the proposed work, and then invite interested contractors. So there are different kinds of tendering. Usually, tendering refers to the process whereby government, companies, and financial institutes invite bid for large project that is not their specialization and must be submitted within a definite deadline. The key word is specialization. Is because it's not their specialization. That's why they have to invite you to bid for contract. So if you must actually win the contract, you must actually show specialization. So let's now see the kinds of contract we have. A tendering procedure. We have the open tendering procedure, which is open for everybody. Even if it's not your specialization, you can go register with NIPEX before the deadline, and then you actually bid for the contract. We have the second one, which is the selective tendering. This is done by IOCs, ExxonMobil, Shell, Chevron. What they do, they actually select the people who are most qualified, which is their specialization. They draw up a list of people they want to send the contract to. They're already assuming that you are a specialist in that field, so they actually send it to just you alone to be able to tender for that contract. That's different from open tendering system, because in the open tendering system, everybody was allowed to bid for the contract. But when it has to do with the selective, people who are not specialized are not given room to actually bid for the contract. Selective tendering is one alternative developed to address the limitation of the open tendering procedure. Now here, a short list of contractors is drawn up, and then they are invited to submit the tender. Now the third one is a negotiation tender. This is the type of tendering where the contractor have a superior technology or service. Both parties come together to discuss the term of the contract. If you have a superior technology, for example, if you're actually in the marine industry, then you can actually go in, you can drop a ball and then it goes in and see what is happening under the water. That means the diver is not actually required for that contract. And that's going to save the IOC money rather than employing a diver to actually go into risk life and properties. Then they'll actually prefer the technology. Since you're the only one that have that superior technology and that can save money, then all you need to do is come in and discuss with the IOC what are the themes they would like you to be on the contract. That's negotiation tendering. So it's not every tendering that you need to go through NIPEX or you need to bid, because when bidding, you're actually bidding with other people. But here, you're actually not bidding with anybody because you have superior technology. You can actually walk in and then you can actually negotiate your tender and then you actually get the contract. Okay? Let's look at the term tendering. In this case, a contractor, after executing the contract, is expected to be on standby in case there are issues. Now, this is done for very risky contracts, like, for example, pipeline. Then if anything happens, properties will be lost or lives will be lost. No, they'll actually want you to be on standby in case there is something that is going to happen, or anything that is happening, you actually step in and take responsibility. Sometimes people may still ask why Julius Berger is still in CBN building. After all, they are builders. What are they doing there? You might ask this question. It's because it was a term tender. So after they have finished the building, they still need to be on standby to maintain the building, to ensure that it's still at the original state which it was done, it was finished. So that's for term tendering. So we have 4 kinds of tendering. I want you to drop the 4 kinds of tendering on your question and answer box if you know the 4 kinds of tendering we have. Are you dropping it right now? We have 4. Can you remember the 4? The very first one is open tendering system. The second one is a selective tendering system and negotiation tendering. And then we have the term tendering. So can you drop it if you're actually part of this class before we go to the next? The 4 kinds of tendering. Okay, I'm seeing you. Okay, open negotiation term. You actually didn't put, okay, selective. I've seen the selective. Okay, now I've seen you, Obina, open tendering. Obina, you just put open tendering. Okay, open tendering system, open selective negotiation and term tendering. Beautiful. Then selective tendering. Obina, I've seen you again. You're dropping one by one. Okay, I've seen.
Beautiful. Now let's actually check and see the process. How do you go about? What are you expected to do? The very first thing you need to see, watch out for, is the contract notice. That's like a public advert for everybody to know. Oh, just like when you get to the market, you see some people actually ringing a bell because they are in need of something. Then the IOC goes around ringing the bell like the market woman, that whenever they are in need of something, because that's not their field of specialization. They are looking for a specialist to come in and cut costs and actually execute the contract for them. So now that's where you're going to see the tender announcement, which is a notice, which is the notice you're going to see. Then after the tender announcement, they will point you to a pre-qualification body. If you're in Nigeria and you'll be asked to be pre-qualified with NIPEX. If it is an internal contract with an IOC, they'll tell you Dons and Bradstreet should actually be a qualifying body. If it's a government contract, sometimes the department will be in charge of your pre-qualification. So you're going to express your interest, and then they will access your capability to find out, actually, is this company real? Is it a portfolio company? Are you in existence? Let me see your financial statement to find out if you've done this kind of bidding, this kind of deals before. They will actually check for all these things, and then they find out, after they do all this thing, they find out that you're good. They will put you in on a platform called the e-market. For NIPEX, is the e-market. If it's Dons and Bradstreet, they will give you a Dons number. Then if it's they'll give you a Dons number to be able to enable you actually use the Dons number to actually register for internal vendor system. Okay, now after that, you're going to receive the bid package, which is the bid specification telling you exactly what the IOC is looking for. If the IOC is looking for a white cockroach that had 10 wings, they are going to specify it there for you. If they are actually looking for a vessel, they are looking for chemical, they will drop the chemical composition, and then they'll tell you everything. Then after that, they'll do clarification. The clarification is for them to clarify what they have sent to you in case you didn't have an understanding of what they were talking about. So they will tell you, this is what we were talking about. This is what we need. We actually didn't need a blue cockroach. We actually needed a white cockroach, and the white cockroach must be able to fly with container offshore. So these are the things they're going to tell you. Then after the clarification meeting, then they will now you bid for the contract. You bid for the contract, and then how do you bid for the contract? So I'm going to take you through on how you can actually start from the announcement till how you can tender your bid package, and then bid for the contract. Negotiation and award of contracts are meant for IOC, are meant for CEOs and chairman. So I'm not really going to touch more on that. I'll actually just jump that. Okay, now the very first thing you need to know is how to register with NIPEX. Do someone know what NIPEX is all about? If you know what NIPEX, can you drop it on your question and answer box? NIPEX. Someone is asking the question, how can I use DONS to source for supplier? How can I use DONS number to source for suppliers? Okay, your DONS number is not to source for suppliers. Your DONS number is actually for you to be able to register with any IOC of your choice, depending. When you want to go and register with any IOC, if you want to register with ExxonMobil, you'll be asked, the question is that they will ask you which of the IOC do you want to register with. They will tell you the costs, and then you pay for the cost, and when you pay, your name will be sent to the IOC. They will actually implant your data in their database. So that means you're actually a vendor of the IOC. Depending on the IOC you want to register with, that's what you can do. But any organization that asks for DONS number, you can actually tender your DONS number, and they will use it to call for your document from DONS, and then they'll implant it into their system. Okay? Now, how do you register for NIPEX? NIPEX. The very first thing you're to do, are you with me? I asked the question. Do everybody know what NIPEX is all about? Please, if you know, yeah, beautiful. I'm seeing NIPEX, beautiful. Prince, you're very correct. Nigerian Exchange Petroleum, okay. They actually manage NIPEX is a branch of NNPC that manages that is in charge of the bidding aspect of contracts. They are the ones that manage it's just a platform for bidding. You can actually get a contract on NIPEX or through as in with NIPEX. NIPEX is just a bidding body, a body for actually bidding for contract. It's just a platform to enable fairness. So if you actually want to, it's an e-market platform for all IOCs to come. For example, the likes of Chevron, Shell, all the IOCs you can think about in Nigeria, they come to look for suppliers on NIPEX. Okay. Now the question is, do you know how to register with NIPEX? Okay. Now the very first thing you need to do, let me share something with you. Let me share a screen with you so that you actually see this. When you're sharing, when you're actually bidding with NIPEX, I want you to have a knowledge of what is required of you. The very first thing you're going to do is to actually go to the website www.nipex/ng.com. When you do that, then you click on service, and then you see NJQS registration. Then if you've actually registered on this and the former 4.0 before, you're going to say no, even if you had registered, for you to be able to start a new registration, which is on 7.0. Then you complete the forms and submit. And all mandatory requirements you'll be asked to submit your mandatory requirements, which you're going to submit. Once you do that, and then they'll ask you for payment. Payment is actually 25,000 naira for registration, and then it's actually online payment through Remitter. Then when you do that, and then you actually confirm, they will confirm your payment. When they confirm your payment, they'll send you another email for you to proceed down for you to proceed to next. Once you do that, they will send a questionnaire for you to fill. The questionnaire is always bulky. You don't need to actually fill it in isolation. All you need to do, you call in your team, your HR department, your operation department. You call possibly you bring the CEO, so that, because the reason you need to bring the CEO to be part of that is because the codes are not always the same. The codes are different. So he's the one to know exactly what the company, the vision of the company. So he will actually pick the codes of what the company can handle. Then you actually match it with the DPR that you have on ground. Sometimes the DPR can actually limit you to the numbers of code you can choose. So you actually pick the code, and then once you're done with that, and then they will send your questionnaire. As soon as your questionnaire is approved, then they will ask you to send more document for desktop audits. Once you're done with your desktop audits, they will tell you, okay, fine, we now know you exist, but we want to come and see you physically if you actually exist. If you're not just in one building or running the company from home, they will come physically to check you. That's on-site audits. When they come, they will snap your building and then try to find out exactly what you do. Once they do, they will check for things like first aid box and to find out to see if you have all the HSC requirements. Once you're done with that, they'll actually sometimes you might have issues during the audit, then you need to close out. When you close out, they'll now put you on the NIPEX platform. When you're put on NIPEX platform, that means you're now on the e-market platform. Okay? Now, if you're on the e-market platform, the next thing you need to know how to do is actually how to bid for the contract. Because being on the e-market platform is not assurance that you're going to have a job. Being on e-market platform is only a marketplace to show you, to tell you exactly how is a marketplace to actually tell you, okay, you're on the market platform now. Let me actually start bidding for contract. How do you now bid for this contract and win? That's what we want to enter into it. The required documents will be your CSC, CSC2, CSC7, Department of Petroleum Resources, as in DPR, then your 3 years current tax clearance, VAT, reference letter from a bank because they need the third party reference to reference you, the current ITF registration. Now, ITF has actually made it compulsory if you're a small company, you need to take exemption from ITF. Now, this questionnaire will be actually verified, and then they will upload your data. Once they do that, you need to start thinking about how do you win contracts. Please, you need to thank the university for bringing this, because this is a very sensitive time. If you have your pen and paper, please, I want you to pull it out and then you keep it beside you and take notes. This is a very essential time. If you've gotten this slide all together, then I think I will actually say we'll drive it down home. Okay. Now, when you're on that platform, how do you win contract? Because now being on that platform doesn't guarantee that you're going to have money coming to your pocket. Now, companies actually need money. How do you now win contract? Supplier approval. This is the placement of an enterprise and an approved list of suppliers following the procedure. I want to actually take it slow and then give you every damn details about this slide. The very first thing you need to know is the 10 C's of Ray Carter. Who was Ray Carter? He was actually director of DPSS Consult, and he first aligned his 7 C's in 1995. He now added more 3 C's, and the 10 C's are, I'm going to start one after the other. Competency. While you're packaging your bid, you need to show that you're competent. How do you show your competence? Can you be a law firm without no lawyers? No. Can you be an accounting firm with no accountants? Can you be an hospital and you don't have any doctor? You can't. Because why? If a patient comes in right now and says he's sick, you don't have in-house doctors to be able to attend to the person. The same thing you should think about while you're packaging your bid. You need to show competency. Who are on ground to get the job done? Who, for example, you're a marine company. Do you have people, mariners? Do you have people, seamen? If you're a diving company, how many divers do you have? You need to list all these professionals. You need to come out to show that, look, these are the CVs of the people that I have employed, that are working with me. You need to front their certificate. They need to be part of your bidding documents to be able to show competency. I've talked about competency. Now, I want you to drop some of the things you need to show competency on the question and answer box. Some of the things you may think that is actually to show competency. How do you show competency? Drop it on the box. CVs and CVs, certificates of pass. I want you to drop it on the box. I want you to drop it in the question and answer box if you know exactly competency in your sector. I want you to tailor made it to your sector. How do you show competency? Do you actually throw it open, or you only put, for example, when you were bidding for contract, they ask you key personnel. Who are the key personnel that is going to handle these contracts? Who are the ones that will take care of these things? Are you going to employ someone else to handle it, or is it a third party? They want to know. Certificates, beautiful. Samuel, you've gotten it. It's certificates. You need actually certificates of key personnel. No, you don't put key equipment. No, you don't put equipment. You put just certificates and then CVs. For the CVs, you need to actually edit the CVs. You actually need to put it on your letter-headed paper, then remove possibly everything private, and then you put the company information. If it is phone number, the phone number there should be the company phone number. If it's an email, the email there should be the company's email. Capacity. The next thing is capacity. How do you show capacity? What are you capable of doing? What can you do? How many equipment do you have? What can you take? What's the silo size you have? What's the capacity you have? You need to show capacity, that you have the capacity to get the job done. You have the equipment to actually get this job done. You have what it takes to get the job done. Now, capacity is actually very important when you're bidding for contract, because sometimes that is what is being required. It might be equipment that is required, might be chemical. Do you have the chemical stored? Where is it? Is it from a third party abroad? You need to actually deliver it. You make delivery. That we need to know. Now, I want you to tell me what you can actually put. I'm just seeing robust execution plan to show. Okay, no, it's not a robust execution plan. You've not gotten to robust, and the answer yes. Certificate is beautiful. Is certificate job completion certificate? No, not job completion certificate yet. But I'm going to tell you where to add your job completion certificate. You need to show competency, show beautiful. Obina, you got it right. Yeah, you need to show competency, showing your personnel CVs, and then that's what you need to put. For under capacity, what you need to put is equipment. For example, you're the owner of the equipment. What you need to put is receipts of the equipment. If it is a chemical, you need to put the receipts of the chemical. Whatever it is, you need to put that you're the owner of that, of what you're doing. Now, the next one is commitment. What is commitment? What are you committed to? I don't take bribe. Okay, somebody raise hand. Okay, CVs of campus. Okay, now when it has to do with commitment, what are you committed to? What can you do? What don't you do? I don't take bribe. I don't take bribe. What are your policies? Now the policies need to be in place. You need to put your policy in place, local content policy, your anti-bribery policy, and all the policies you have. That's where you list your policies, showing what you're committed to. Now you talk about control. You need to call someone to actually come in and take control. When it has to do with commitment, what do you put? What do you put in your bid? You put your policy statement. The policy statement needs to be signed. You need to stamp it and sign. Some people are actually throwing policy statement with no signature on it. Is not valid. You know, then is there anybody that's coming to see that these things you're talking about, you have control over it? If you have control, do you have an ISO certificate to actually someone to come in and ratify that, look, I know these guys, because the ISO will not have the time to actually come in and check your systems, internal systems. So they are actually believing a third party, telling them, look, I have come in to check these people and I know that they are good. That is, they have control over what you're doing. So that in that one, you need to bring third party certifications like ISO certificates. Then the next one is number 5, cash. There are always guys that are actually responsible for cash they look out for. One of the things in cash is financial statement. Financial statement, bank reference letter, tax clearance, and your VAT letter. Those are the 4 bad guys when it has to do with cash. So for cash, those are the 4 things you need to attach when it has to do with cash. They actually use it to check to find out if you have the capacity, you can actually do exactly what you've talked about. Number 6 is costs. Cost is more or less like commercials. How much are you willing to do this job for? That's your commercials. This is the point sometimes the business development manager's hands are tied, or the commercial manager's hands are tied, because CEOs actually, since it's a 5-year contract, 4 years contract, they don't know what the future holds. So what they do is that they actually think about inflation. So while they're doing that, they actually put costs. If it's a 5-year contract, nobody knows what will happen the next day. Nobody knew that there will be coronavirus in 2020. So now things are more or less like 3 times the amount. So anybody that was on contract, if you're on contract with ExxonMobil, Shell, you might by now you should have gotten a letter that was sent to you before the pandemic started. The same thing happens. So while these things are happening, you need to impute it into your cost, because you're still going to carry overhead expenses. Okay, now consistency. You need to show consistency. If you're looking for an accounting job, if you've worked like a grass cutter before, or a cleaner, and you've worked as an accountant, you will not want to put everything down, because it will tell the person actually employing you that you don't have so much experience when it has to do with accounting, that you're everywhere, jack of all trade. But rather, what you will do is lined up everything according to what is required. If it's an accounting job, you line up accounting. I've worked here as an accountant. I've worked there as an accountant. I've worked here as an accountant. I've worked there as an accountant. Beautiful, to show consistency. But when we're bidding for contract, what we do, we shoot ourselves on the leg by actually listing other things the company do that you're not required to. For example, the company is into chemicals, or if the bid was for marine, you don't need to bring chemicals. You need to concentrate on marine and actually bring all the jobs that has been done in marine to the book. Tell them this is what we did. We did delivery for this. We did delivery for Exxon. We did delivery for Chevron. We did delivery for ExxonMobil. These are the things you need to line up. So you need to show consistency there. Culture. Culture is, somebody said something. He said during the question and answer, and he said, okay, anti-bribery policies, beautiful, Prince, you're correct. You know, all the policies is where you put ownership, under capacity, yeah, beautiful company ownership of equipment. You're very correct, you know, for under capacity. That's what you need to bring up. Then for culture, how do you cook your Indomie? Let me use an Indomie illustrations I like using in class. If everyone in this webinar is given Indomie, different pack, the same Indomie, everybody will cook it differently. Some people like their Indomie with green pea. Some people like carrots in their Indomie. Some people like with water, so they call it Indomie pepper soup. Some people actually like it fried. They need to fry the egg first before they now throw in the Indomie. But whatever way you cook the Indomie, what comes to the table is the Indomie. It's Indomie, right? Am I correct? Okay. Now, if that's correct, how do you do things in your company? What is your company culture? How do you do your job? We want you to carry pure water from point A to point B. How do you carry? That's where the work execution plan comes in. And then you need to submit your work execution plan. You need to sit with the operations person, and then you draft a work execution plan that will actually wow the people. Then they will know that, okay, you can actually execute this contract very well. Now, that's number 8. Number 9, clean. How do you show you're clean? For example, you've been awarded 20 contracts and you have only 2 job completion. If I'm sitting on the decks, I would say you're a very troublesome person, because how can you be awarded 10 contracts and then you just finish 2? You can't. Rather doing that, why don't you just put the 2 completion you have? Because if you show, it will show to anybody actually checking you out that you're not clean. That means you're a troublesome person. You actually fight. Possibly you used to sue people to court, and then you didn't show that you're clean. When you're talking about clean, that means you're without litigation. You don't have any litigation. You don't have any court case with anybody. You don't have any conflict with anybody. You're not a troublesome person. That's what it means when it has to do with clean. And when we're small, when you pick meats from this team, when mommy comes to say my hands are clean, it's the same thing. The same clean applies here. That is clean. That means you're clean. The company is clean. They can actually handle the job without litigation. Communication. Communication is number 10. When you're talking about communication, how do you communicate this thing? The worst thing to do is to have something on the heart that you can't tell somebody. When we're young people coming up, there are sometimes when you want to ask a girl out, when you raise in the mirror and go to tell her, you're unable to tell her face to face because you've raised so much in the mirror. The same thing. How do you communicate to a professional? As a professional, you need to know how to package this, and then you send it to the next person. The person doesn't need to call you and ask, hey, I beg, where your CSC? No, you need to know how to do that. How do you do that? That we're going to enjoy in this class. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to the next. Okay, before we go to the next, let's check what happens in the construction industry. You need to be conscious about your price, quality, delivery. You know, the price matters, your delivery. What is the quality you're delivering? You know, you're delivering or bringing to the table. Stability, financial stability. The IOC actually prefers someone who is financially stable than the person. For example, you made 1 million naira in year one, you made 10 million naira in year two, and you make zero naira in year three. You're not stable. The IOC would prefer someone who made 1 million in year one, 2 million in year two, 3 million in year three, 4 million in year four. Reasons because of financial stability. They could actually count on the person because they know the person will not collect their money, and the next year they'll file for bank that their money is gone. Bank, we don't have any money in the account. No, they can't do that. Long-term relationship potential. Do you have a long-term relationship potential? Sometimes you're being asked, have you done this kind of job for before? How long have you done this? The reason they're trying to find out what are the relationships you've had in the past. Total quality performance and philosophy. You need to know the company you're working with, you're working for, their philosophy. Can you actually come in? Can you actually bend to what they want? You know, if you're someone that is in Chevron, you know Chevron like HSC so much. Even when you're going to Chevron, you find out you need to walk in the yellow line. You need to be careful where even if where you're going is just by the corner, you actually ensure that you actually have to follow the HSC rules when you get to Chevron. E-commerce capability. How flexible are you to payment? Can you actually, because the payment sometimes is 6, and they tell you different methods, 6 weeks. They'll tell you 4 weeks depending on the time of the contract. You need to be sure that you don't have like maybe 6 IOCs actually giving you funds at the same time. No, the working capital of the company will actually go down because you can actually take all the supplies. You can't do everything. Before you know, you'll be running to the bank for loan. So you need to be careful. Are you flexible for payment? That's why sometimes I ask you, what are the current jobs you're doing? Ongoing contracts. What are the ongoing contracts you're doing right now? They want to see it because they want to know exactly what you're doing. Okay, let's talk about quality, cost, and delivery. The grade. What are the grade you want to give? What you're giving, is it fit for the use? What was required from you? Is it fit? For example, they said they want something that can actually carry so metric tons of metric tons. Can you actually, what you're offering, can you actually carry the same metric tons? Does it conform to the specification? If for a business development manager, a commercial manager in the oil and gas industry, if the very first 3 yellow is not being fulfilled, I don't see any need for you bidding for the contract, except you just want to make the numbers. If you have something higher, you can actually offer it, then you can be picked. But if it is lower than what is required, I don't see need for you to bid for the contract, except sometimes you have a whole lot of pressure from CEOs and chairmen of the company. Then they'll pressurize you to just bid. No, they don't want to know what you're bidding with. But if you must be a very good professional to know that if the very first 3 is not in place, there is no need of you bidding except you have something higher. For costs, you need to check your price. What is anybody asking you to supply pure water? Don't ever think he doesn't know the cost of pure water. He knows the cost of everybody's global. Pure water is on BBC and everybody knows pure water. Do you understand the cost? So don't ever assume that the cost is not known. So if you put something lower so that you can actually win the bid using market penetration method, they know that this is not, if this is not going to be, if we give this guy this job, it might actually run with the money because the costs of doing this job alone is not even, he has not reached that amount. The price too, what is your markup? What did you put on top? Sometimes they ask you to supply pure water of 10 naira. You now put 100 naira on top so that in the next 5 years, you'll make a whole lot of profit. You need to also check because you know it's a competition among several people. So you need to actually make sure that your price too is very friendly. Okay, delivery. When it has to do with delivery, what's the right time for the delivery? You need to ask if you're in the oil and gas industry, you hear Q1, Q2, that's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Then the right place, where are you asked to get this job done? Is it in pharmacy in Calabar? Is it in which of the, is it offshore? Is it swamp water? Is it, you need to know, do you have the right to work in these kind of places? The community, are you friendly with the community? Do the community know you so well for you to, is it, sometimes there are some places in Port Harcourt, if you're not a son of the soil, you can actually function in such places. So now, if you're not a son of the soil and you win a contract in such places, you find out that you're going to have a problem because you cannot actually function in such place. So they'll actually want you to have the letter draft out or an MOU, an agreement. If you're not a son of the soil, or if you have any itch with them, this is what you're going to do. Okay, right amount. You need to also check your delivery amount and ensure that it's actually okay and beautiful. Okay, now you need to check and find out, have you kept to all the conditions of what they are asking for? If it is some government contracts, they will tell you that you need to submit the bid in Lokoja. Do you have the flight money to actually pay to Lokoja to actually put it? You have to also make sure that you lodge the contract on time. If it is a bid that is on NIPEX platform, you need to ensure that you log in on time. I've actually tried bidding for a contract before and I was like 2 minutes late. 2 minutes later, and they logged me out. I've actually finished uploading, but I couldn't submit. Why? Because the HSC manager actually didn't submit his own part of the document on time. So you need to actually be careful about the timing. Don't actually assume people are looking at your bid, checking your Ds, because why? Except you actually put it on a general folder, then that's when everybody will see what you've done. But if not, nobody sees what you bid it for. Okay? Now, the document, you need to sign your document. I've been in a court proceeding in which the judge threw out the case. Why? Because the council actually didn't sign the documents. They have to adjourn the case to a later date, and it wasn't good news for the people that were there, because that's a whole lot of money going down. So you need to ensure your policies, they are signed, they are stamped. You need to ensure all these things, who approved it, who did it, and then if there was any addition done during the year or there is a change, who approved the change, you need to sign and stamp all those things. Okay, you need to ensure you meet all the mandatories. When it has to do with mandatories, you're saying, do you have DPR permits? Do you have this? All the permits, you need to ensure you have them. Okay, let's talk about tender announcement. We actually said tender. And what's tender announcement? Tender announcement is a process you call for vendors on a certain job to provide service at a competitive price, usually done through a press advert by a body. That's just tender notice. Throwing an advert outside. This is I'm looking for biscuits. I'm looking for biscuit. I'm looking for fish biscuits. Actually calling for something. Then the notice is, they are just ads on newspaper platforms, NIPEX platform. You find out, you're going to see those platforms asking you to actually bid for contract. Then what's pre-qualification? Is just screening the potential contractors on different bases, maybe work experience, managerial ability, financial ability, reputation, work history, to develop a qualified bid for those people who's going to receive the invitation to bid. That's everything pre-qualification is all about. Okay, now invitation to tender. What's invitation to tender? That's the initial step of a competitive tender. That's the main bid document itself. That's where it is going to carry the scope of work, where everything you need to know about the contract is actually comes with it. Let's check example. Let's use Chevron bid to actually analyze what comes with the bid package. The very first thing you're going to see is your bid invitation letter. The bid invitation letter is actually telling you everything that you have seen on the bid package. The next one is actually your tender acknowledgement form. I want to ask a question. When do you submit your tender acknowledgement form? If you know when you submit your tender acknowledgement form, I want you to put it on the table. Okay, I'm looking at the questions and he said, you'll make your table of content your head for culture. No, for culture is actually when you're talking about culture now, culture is your Um, after you receive your culture, when you're talking about culture, is work execution plan. That's your culture. What you do, how you cook your indomie, how do you do your own job. That's a work execution plan. Okay. Immediately you, Omotola said, immediately you get your ITT. Yeah. Oh, immediately you get your ITT. Beautiful. Omotola, you're very correct. Immediately you get your ITT, you must acknowledge that you've gotten the bid document. You need to acknowledge. Some people actually wait until the deadline of submission. No, you get your you submit your acknowledgement. Sometimes 24 hours after you've received the bid package. You need to show that, look, I want to be part of this. I want the tender acknowledgement form is a point receipt. Beautiful. Yeah. Take note. Take note. You're correct. You're saying very correct. At the point you receive the bid document, as soon as you receive the bid document, you need to submit. You need to actually submit your acknowledgement form. Now, after you submit your acknowledgement form, the next thing you need to do is prepare for the bid. Now, there are different packages. We're going to discuss the package, and then we'll run a little bit. The very first thing you're going to receive, the thing you need to read most, like your writing exam, is your invitation to bidders. Invitation to bidders is actually where you have all the information you need to bid for the contract. How you're going to bid for the contract, how are you submitting the contract, who is responsible for what. So that you need to know the invitation to tender. The other things that is part of the bid package is actually the NIPEX instruction to bidders. The platform you're going to submit the bid is giving you an instruction. Look, you need to have a Java on your system. Your system has to do this. Your system has to be this large before you're able to bid for the contract. Then the IOC is also interested in insurance, insuring lives and property. So they'll actually come up with your insurance. They'll ask you for insurance. They'll tell you what insurance have you put in place to actually protect life and properties. So after they ask you for that, then the technical specification, if it was a vessel, they'll ask you for the technical specification, or they'll give you the technical specification they want you to bring to them. Then you see the specification. If it's a chemical, at this point you see the chemical composition. If it is an equipment, what do you need to see? They will tell you the make of the equipment. They'll tell you everything you need to know about the equipment, the original manufacturer of the equipment. Then they'll give you a master charter party. This is for marine, but if it is for other sectors, you have an agreement. At the end of this thing, you're going to sign something. So they'll give you a sample of what you're going to sign for you to see, so that if you're ready, and again, you need to know what you need to read through it to find out, or if you have a legal department, you need to give it to the legal department to actually check it out. Now, the technical bid proposal comes up next. Then your commercial sheet is part of. Then you now have the local content and the Nigerian content equipment certificate. For example, if it's an equipment, you need to actually register with local content to ensure that you keep to all the guidelines. Then you need to check the local content requirement, which is number 12. Then number 13, if it's a marine vessel, then you have to check the marine commercial sheets. How are you going to spend this money? The money that you're about to win now. How are you going to spend it? Projected Nigerian spend from local content requirement. You'll be asked of this supplier qualification questionnaire. Then you now have for Chevron, it's called contractor help, environment and safety management. That's for Chevron, but for others, they can actually they have different names for it. But this is the typical thing you're going to see in a bid document. When you have this in your bid document, the very first thing you need to ask yourself, is this my scope of work? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. Is this my scope of work? If this is not your scope of work, you can as well say, I'm not doing it. But if it's your scope of work, you can actually go ahead and start preparing your bid. Okay? Then the next thing you need to ask yourself, do you have proof? Because everything you're about to do requires proof. You need to have proof of all the above things you say you can do. You say you have all the regulatory documents like DPR permits, you're registered with the local content, beautiful. You're registered with all the bodies, beauty. Do you have a proof? Because only thing that I believe are things that have proof. If you have the proof, you know that, okay, now what do they want? When do they want it? How do they want it? What is the purpose they want it for? That's when you need to check your scope of work. You need to know exactly what is being required. Okay. Next thing you need to avoid mistakes. There are tender mistakes by Maurice Drowning. The very first mistake is repetition. If you've won a contract and you're actually going on the contract immediately, you don't have to package the contract the way you had done it before. It's easier to be a champion than to remain a champion. We had a Nigerian brother that actually won the the title, and then he felt the guy is too short, he won't be able to do anything. But he realized that the guy came in and boxed him down. He needed to have to prepare twice to be able to get his title back. Everybody is eyeing that contract. So if you're on that contract, the next thing you need to do, you need to repackage better than how you did it before to be able to remain on that contract. The next thing is model statement. Model statement is used in presentation. You hear GMs and marketing people say, by the grace of God, we have appearance in almost all the states in United States. We have offices in Africa. We have 120. Don't try. Your business is not trying to prove that if it's correct. Your business is to win the bid, not to market. So you need to know the difference between your role and a commercial manager. The commercial manager is to market the company and all the services. Your role is to bid and win the contract. So you're not to prove model statement that is actually on the boardroom alone. No, don't try to do that. What you need to do is concentrate on the bid itself. Your aim is to win the contract. You should concentrate on winning of the contract. So don't try to say you want to file in all the CVs of all the staffs in West Africa, just like the chairman said, for equipment. No, don't try to do that. List what is relevant for the contract. The next one is expert traps. Wonderful ending without no process. There's something we do when we are in nursery school, when we are doing simultaneous equation. When you finish, they will now ask the next person, what's the answer? The person will tell you 2 and minus 2. You just write 2 and minus 2. You don't show working. Now, you need to show working. You cannot be a company that is just incorporated for 1 year and you can actually win contracts worth 25 million and above, and you don't have any technical partner during the year. Nobody's going to believe you. What is your first financial statement like? You need to show that you actually partnered with someone for 4 years, and then this is what you were doing, and this is what you're doing, and then you grew. After 4 years, the person left you, and you now did jobs on your own, and then you maintain. You're showing that you started from somewhere and you grew, you had a process, and then you're following suit. That's a mistake we make. We want to show that, wow, this company is capable of actually winning the contract. Then we make the company so fantastic, and you forget that the CSC is going to sell you out. The financial statement is going to sell you out. You don't do that because it's like expert trap. You just put yourself in the box and you've actually shot yourself on the leg. Okay. The next thing you need to know is fatigue. It's very stressful to bid for a contract. Don't actually, sometimes you need to just, when you're done packaging the contract, you take yourself out. You can go to Cold Stone, or you look for somewhere, look for maybe where you have some pizza. You get a extravaganza, you sit down and eat. When you're done, then you cool your brain with some ice cream. You can take some strawberry ice cream. Then when you're back, then you come back and check the bid like you're actually bidding for the contract all over again. When you're done with that, you check and find out, you see your mistakes. If you have a superior, you push it to the superior to check out for you to find out what the errors are, and then you actually correct it before you submit your bid. Don't use the pressure, oh, let's win. You find out you're going to make a whole lot of mistakes you actually didn't bargain for. The next one is template. I've seen people ask me a whole lot, what is the template? Or how do you bid contract and win? How do you do this? No, there is no one template for all bid. If you read through your bid document, all of them come with their templates. So when you read through, you're going to find out that there are sometimes you're being given the templates from the IOC. So that's why you need to read between the lines to find out which of the templates to use. Okay? Now let's talk about bid compilation, bid layout style, providing evidence, and the effective pricing. This is where we're going to end today. Now, the bid compilation, how do you do the bid compilation? How do you do the bid compilation? The bid compilation is how do you actually package your bid itself. I'm I'm just imagining. I'm saying I'm just imagining all of you. You're bringing out your pens and paper. Yeah, he's going to bring out. He's about to do miracles. This is not about miracles. It's about day-to-day thing you need to know and do. How do you lay out? What are your styles? How do you provide the evidence? What is the effect? What is your strategy? How are you planning your strategy to be able to win? Because it's not about bidding. There are thousands of people actually bidding for the same contract. How do you show that you're most qualified, that you're the specialist they're actually looking for? Okay? The very first thing you need to do when you're done reading, you need to mark each point. For example, they said you need to show that you're capable. The next thing you need to do, you check. For example, they're asking for something like HSC. HSC is your heading. Then you need to drop down and then give all the outline, everything you need, depending on how you want to do it. Okay, I'm gonna share something with you now. I just want to show a typical. Are you all seeing my screen right now? Okay, this is one method. You can decide to use annexes. You could say when you're done, if you check, you see Annex 1, which is the cover letter, which you've already done, and then you is already on your this thing. You've acknowledged the acknowledgement letter you actually sent to the IOC. Then you need to still bring it back. Then you actually put your informations, maybe table of content. The table of content is actually more or less like an architectural job. That's the one you actually give it to the professional to be able to know exactly where you're going to, how you want to marry each of the documents, so that if he grabs the table of content, he doesn't need you present to actually tell him this is this. All he needs to do is to actually check each of the document according to how you listed it. Now you don't have to use. It's not mandatory that you must use annexes. You could use page. You could use numbers. You can actually say, okay, I'm not adding anything. I just want to put table of content. Depending on how you're doing it, but you have to label it in your table of content, let it come out very well to the end. Then your technical specifications, your MOU, you need to list everything according to how you actually program it in your table of content. Okay? The last slide talks about repetition, model statement, expert trap, fatigue, and templates. So you don't have to make these errors at all.